All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Alan with Exploring with the Smiths, and today we're going to be at the Machinery Hall eating lunch in downtown historic Chillicothe, Ohio. Here you can see the facade of the building and how old everything is. And Carol checking out some of the details on the building. Nice stained glass, and even had a picture of what the place used to look like back in the day. Here we are inside the restaurant. Excellent food, and you see our bartender in the background there. She was a lot of fun. She was a real blast, and we had some great craft beer. I think Carol had some sort of fancy drink. I forget exactly what she had, but it was really good. She enjoyed that. And you can see what a great interior this place has. It's just a lot of fun, a lot of good food. And there we had the poutine, I think it's called, with pulled pork. It's got the cheese curds, gravy. There's my Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale. It's a really, really nice deviled eggs. Couldn't think of it there for a second. Just a great place to start, and we'll do a little quick walk around through downtown Chillicothe here. There again is our new setup for our bike adventures and our traveling. And you can see the theme down here in Chillicothe is going to be centered around Tecumseh. We have the Sugarloaf Mountain Amphitheater here in Chillicothe, located in south central Ohio, down by the Scioto River. And you can see the Tecumseh outdoor drama through the summer. Now you can see the history that just oozes from this area. However, you're also going to see how decrepit these, especially this town, these older towns we go into for our bike rides, how sad it is that these areas that were once thriving areas were basically abandoned and are just crumbling. Fortunately, there's a lot of entrepreneurs trying to come back into these areas. You can see they're doing some renovation work. The restaurant we just ate at it's only been there for a couple years, and it seems to be doing really well. So it's good to see some good old American entrepreneurship here, where people are trying to come back in and fix the place up. But Chillicothe's been here since the late 1700s, 1795 or 1798, and it's centered as the Ross County seat, and it was the first capital of the state of Ohio. But you can just, if you could just go back in time and see what this was like, it would have just been spectacular. Had the beautiful shops, and where the shop owners used to live up above the shops, the beautiful homes that they had. It was really something to see. So if you're in the area and you want to see something cool, stop in Chillicothe. There are restaurants that you can eat at that are not greasy spoons or chain restaurants. So that's basically what I'll do, is I will sit down a week or so before we do a bike trip. We'll start planning out our bike trips for the season, and I will go in and try to find the best places possible to eat, places we can try to eat. There you can see the old county hall, which would have at one time been the state capitol. And you can see how amazing that building is. Really impressive. But yeah, I'd really like to see as manufacturing starts to come back to the country, we can see new life breathed back into these areas. See, we have Kenworth Truck has a manufacturing facility here, and a few other manufacturers, but there are more coming as the steel industry comes back to Ohio, and other assembly plants coming back to Ohio for the auto industry. Really, really nice to see. But this was the home of the Shawnee Indians, folks. Chillicothe was pretty much a seasonal camp, and wherever the Indians were camped at, or their main camp, they called it Chillicothe. But this was just one of their camps. I believe would have been a summer camp, where they would have camped in this area at the mouth of the Olentangy and Scioto River. Now you can tell this was an old hotel, and it's just spectacular, but in complete ruin. You had the slate roof. It just needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of work. So we just kind of wanted to take a look around. Pretty much every place we looked, except for the few newer places going in, were either abandoned, big paint chips flaking off, roof caving in. You know, you can tell it need major roof work. But just a shout to the bygone era. All right, now here we are. We're at the trailhead. We found a nice place to park right outside of downtown. Had really nice parking and a nice entrance to the trail. And we're going to do a quick trail ride. It turns out, and I want to point this out to you, potential trail riders for the Chillicothe and the Ross County rail trail system. If you're starting in Chillicothe like we were, downtown Chillicothe area, riding northwestward, hello, yeah, ham, you're going to find that it is a definite upgrade. So we got into about mile 6 or 7, and we could really feel the burn in the old thighs. So I figured, wow, this is definitely an upgrade. So as we turned around and started heading back to the Adena Mansion tour, which we have on this video also, guys, it was a lot easier going back down towards Chillicothe. So I can't tell you that. So a strategy we're going to use next time is to go into town, have lunch at the same place, since the food was so good and the service was so good. We're going to drive north of town and actually ride a different stretch of the trail that's, from what we understand, is more flat and not so hilly. You notice as you get down here, you can see off in the distance, as you get towards southern Ohio, more down towards the river, it becomes hillier. So while the rail company did a great job of keeping it as level as they possibly could, it's definitely a hard ride out of Chillicothe, to put it mildly. You see, everything's starting to leaf up. We had a great time. It was we're starting to get into late April, and it was just a great time to get outside. It was a little overcast. Temperatures were probably in the mid 60s, but hey, if it's nice enough, we get out. Now here we are in the visitor center for the Adena Mansion. And they had a beautiful diorama here, the Adena Hilltop. And the Adena Mansion was built for the Thomas Worthington family by Benjamin Latrobe. And you see there's Thomas Worthington. He was one of the first governors of the state of Ohio. And the mansion was completed in 1807. You see here James Monroe had stayed there. There's some of the family's silver that has been preserved here in the visitor center. Now, when you first come in and park, you do have to come through the visitor center, pay, and they have it set so that you pretty much come through the visitor center and then through. Now, this is the tomahawk and peace pipe that Tecumseh himself gave Thomas Worthington as a gift. They became fast friends. Tecumseh used to be a frequent visitor to the mansion before the Indians were finally driven out of Ohio in the Treaty of Greenville. As you can see there, that there's a lot to see, and a lot to take in, and learning about how people lived in the early 1800s, late 1700s. Now this room is very interesting. It's more dedicated to the Worthington family and all of the children. You can see there all the girls. Those were the girls, obviously. Now, one thing we noticed is how short their hair was, and we asked about that. And it turns out that all of the children, including the adults, kept their hair short, and they tended to wear wigs, the women, because of lice and bugs and whatnot, and it was just easier to keep your hair. So on the frontier, as it were, back then, early 1800s, Ohio was the frontier. And it was pretty hard scrabble, and to have a nice limestone house built like this in the wilderness would have been pretty special, especially just for a governor. There's his wife, Margaret. And Thomas was away a lot. He was a U.S. senator. He was in the U.S. House of Representatives. And he was away on business a lot. He had a lot of land holdings due to the fact that his first job as a young man was a land surveyor. And back then, the land surveyors were paid in land. So if he would survey, let's say 5,000 acres, he would get to collect depending on who hired him, 5 to 10% would be his fee, and he would claim that as land. They would not pay him in cash. They would just give him some of the land that he just surveyed. So he was what was considered a land speculator, and that's where he made a lot of his fortune. And also grist mills, general stores, and all those types of enterprises that would have been booming on the frontier. You can see here how they platted out Chillicothe and all the different plots. An average plot was about $100, which was a tidy sum back then. And you find some of the plots and even some of the farm plots outside of town would have been, some of them were awarded to soldiers as payment for their service either in the Revolutionary War or the War of 1812. Pretty interesting. Lots to see, lots to read, a lot to take in. And now we're going to be heading out through the back of the visitor center. I wanted to pan around and show one more look back at the lobby, the gift shop, and this amazing diorama. Wow, it was just really well done. Being a model builder myself, I was really impressed. And then we've got this little atrium area where we can walk out through and get on the path that goes out to the mansion house. Just a beautiful property. You're up on a top of a hill. You can really see off in the distance the beautiful hills around Chillicothe. Places to picnic if you want to bring a picnic lunch. It's not very expensive. I think it was about $10 a person. That included a tour of the house, the visitor center, as you can see, which is basically a mini museum. And you could roam all of the grounds. They have a beautiful gardens, which was just starting to come on, of course, being early spring. But that stone mansion, we're going to come right around the bend here, has historically accurate interiors, including furnishings. And the grounds cover 300 acres of the original 2,000-acre estate. There's a garden area featuring kitchen herbs and heirloom vegetables with some of the varieties available for purchase. And we saw some of that as we first came into the visitor center. They have a really nice produce stand out front where you could purchase some of the produce, and also herbaceous plants like perennials and annual flowers. A former overseer's house has also been restored and demonstrates life for German immigrants to the area. So we had some nice placards as we walk along. It kind of describes the meadows and the various areas they would have used throughout the farm. Now, as I said, Thomas was gone a lot, so it really fell to his wife, and they also had an overseer who helped manage the farm while he was away. Now, Thomas Worthington recorded that he chose Adena as the name for his estate because it referred to the places remarkable for the delightfulness of their situation. Wow, pretty colorful. The museum at Adena has an exhibit which claims Adena is based on a Hebrew word. Pretty interesting. In 2003, the Adena Mansion was restored to its 19th century appearance to celebrate the Ohio bicentennial. The estate was designated as a National Historic Landmark on February 28, 2003, primarily because it was one of the few surviving examples of Latrobe's designs. Now, you'll notice what struck me as we came up the path here, guys, is how simple, really, the home is. And it's made of the local cut sandstone and also some limestone. Limestone would have been primarily used for the foundation. Now, they speculated that all of the stone was quarried on site somewhere on the 2,000 acres. And as we were leaving, the tour guide told us they weren't exactly sure where the area was that they harvested the stone. And as we left, I saw a really large pond area, and I thought that was where the stone quarry was, and now it's flooded in over, a long time ago after they dug down to the water table. So I spotted where the stone quarry was pretty quickly. As you can see there, the cut limestone is more of a gray. The sandstone is more of the tans. You can see there was a place where the carriages were pulled up. The carriage steps were turned the wrong direction. And we were told that here on this circular drive, if we go to the left there, right in the middle of this circular drive is roughly where the original log cabin would have stood while they were building this stone home. And I think it took about 3 years to complete, to finish it completely, and the family just lived in a beautiful log home in the front that they dismantled once the home was finished. You can see by our standards it was a very basic home, but being in the frontier at that time, this would have been a pretty spectacular home for the area, obviously. So here we're coming up onto the family's gardens. I had a very extensive garden system where you're going to be raising all the things that you're going to need for the home. Fruits, vegetables, herbs, anything that you need. And you see here they did have a audio tour you could do through your cell phone if you so chose. Beautiful garden setup, crushed limestone, trimmed beds, so everything was very organized and kept. I was very impressed being in the landscape industry. I was very impressed. Blueberry bushes, blackberries, raspberries, and just floral plants for cut flowers to bring into the home. So we definitely want to come back during the season. At some point we want to do another ride, probably mid to late summer, possibly early fall, so we can see more of the gardens and spend a little bit more time, maybe bring even a picnic lunch once we're done with our ride, or picnic brunch, so to speak. But I really like this prepared garden area. That's pretty inspirational for me to continue to develop the gardens here at our home. So I highly encourage you guys to get out, get off your couch, get outside. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of fun things to do that are hidden gems tucked away. You don't have to necessarily have a bicycle, but if you just get out and do a walk and or a hike and get out and see things and experience the local area where you live, and even here in central Ohio. All right, thanks for coming along for the ride today, guys, and I'll see you on the next video. Ciao.